Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that are continuing to follow us on Facebook and watch the live feed. We appreciate that very much. For almost 8 years, the focus has been education and information. We'll continue to do that, and what I mean by that is we work really hard to try to provide you, the listeners, with great guests, content, information to help you make wise decisions in and around your real estate. So we'll continue to do that. And I also have mentioned this before, and it's worth repeating every once in a while. We don't want to be a show that comes on or provides information or does a show that just reads stats or divulges information that was potentially something some of you or most of you might already know, if that makes sense. So we want to try to dig deep in a lot of this material when it comes to real estate or what's going on in the marketplace, whether it's, is the market, is it uptrend, a downtrend, what are the rates doing? How does that impact your purchase decision? How does it impact the seller's decision? How does it impact contractors? And we do stories on, of course, accessory dwelling units. That's a big deal. ADUs now that are units that are being bought, or I should say designed and now added on people's property. That's a big topic. We've talked several times about that. We'll continue to update those. There's a lot of information that's going on out in the world of real estate that I think people don't get the immediate information on, or if they do, they don't really have the details or they don't quite know what the truth is. The great thing about the internet, the great thing about technology is that we get information quickly, it comes to us immediately, and those are the good things. And the good part is that no one could take that education, that process away, or the ability to educate yourself on anything because of the internet and because of the way technology evolved. The problem is a lot of the information that's posted out there on the internet and a lot of stuff that even sometimes appears to be credible is not credible. So how do you decipher through all that? In my opinion, what you do is you find a couple different podcasts, editors, writers, books, authors, speakers. You find a group of people or shows or information you could rely on. And that's what I do in my aspects, all aspects of my life. There's so much noise out there, and there's so many people trying to sell something when they get on a podcast or when they get on a radio show or when they get on TV or when they're writing a blog. There's nothing wrong with that when you're trying to sell something. We all are selling something to a certain extent. The part that you have to be really careful of is when someone is doing a podcast, a TV show, a radio show, or blog, or whatever, and it's really clear that they're selling something 24/7, or everything they say, it's about trying to drive a sell or drive a decision for you to make a purchase of one thing or another, whether it's tapes or videos or a seminar or real estate or whatever it is. So my point here is that be careful with some of these resources. My focus has always been education and information, and I was just sharing this with an attorney partner with over the weekend. We were doing some podcasts with Jack Russo. Most of you know he comes in and we do podcasts together as well. In that I built this podcast in this format on education and information because that's the way I built my business, my traditional business, and I felt like I wanted to bring that to the airways in the podcast, the same format, the same concept, in that if you share good information and you do it objectively, fair, and you tell the truth about all this stuff, if someone decides to use you for business, whether it's lending, real estate, or whatever it is, if they use you, my hope has been is they use because they trust you and they've done their due diligence and they like you, they want to do business with you. And that's the way I've built the business, and that's the way I'll continue to do it, and that's the way I designed and developed this podcast to do the same thing. So today, on that note, the topic is the truth about technology and real estate. And I highlight the truth in the title, and I highlight the truth verbally as I talk about this, because if you read enough information, if you're not careful, you would think that technology is taking over real estate and lending, and robots will soon be, walking you around, showing you a house and sitting down and filling out your paperwork, and you won't have any more human element to the transaction. That's far from the truth. There are elements of technology that are improving the experience in both real estate and lending, and I'm going to go through those today, and I'm going to clear them up for the people that may be confused of, how is technology affecting real estate and lending? So I'm going to go through that process, dispel the myths. There's a lot of myths out there, and we'll talk about those to give you, the consumer, a better idea of what to expect when you're working with someone in lending and real estate, and how is technology affecting it, number one. Number two, is it true? How much of it is it true? Is the use of technology, what does that mean? Does it mean that it's more efficient, that it's more effective, that it's the process, the systems are improved? Does it mean ultimately it's a better way for customer care? Or is it just a play on words, or is it just a lot of money being spent to call it technology, and there really is not that big of a change in the use of technology? And I'll get into more details of that. One of the things that we hear a lot about on the mortgage side is Fintech. So the abbreviation Fintech, for those that may not know, is financial technology. So this category has been developed over the last several years, and you hear a lot about on, anything to do with financial technology. So if there are anything that's taking place that it's a new development or a new technology and improves the financial services, whether it's mortgage, credit card, banking, any of those all fall under the category of Fintech. So financial technology. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. What is a reality? What exists? What doesn't exist? Maybe some myths again around that, because there's a lot. So the truth about technology and real estate. So let's start a little bit on the real estate side. We'll move to the lending side, the second part of the show. So here is the reality when you see technology reports, articles, interviews about technology taking over real estate. So to this day, the date that we talk today, here in mid-September 2019, there hasn't been any significant, huge changes in technology as it relates to real estate. Let me explain the use of technology and how they try to phrase it and sell it as a huge technology endeavor when it really isn't. And I'll give you some examples. So Open Door is a company that started several years ago, and this was supposed to be a real estate technology play. And the whole idea is they came out and they said, we're going to completely take real estate agents out of the equation of buying and selling a home primarily. And people would say, well, how are you going to do that? So their model was they raised a lot of money, I think it's well over $1 billion, $1.5 billion. And so their model is this. They're going to buy the home outright. Okay, so they're going to buy or sell the home outright. So if you're a seller and you put your home on the market and you think you get $500,000, the idea with Open Door and iPad and iOffer and iBuyer and all these things you hear about, the concept is that they buy your house outright. So there's really no real estate agent. You don't have to worry about a lot of the different fees. You don't have to worry about a mortgage because they're buying it outright. You don't have to worry about staging your home, putting your home on the market, all these things. And so they'll market all this stuff as all the benefits to have someone buy your home from you instead of put it on the market and list it traditionally like the majority of people do. So let me just spell this out clearly. If you have a system or a program or a model where you're buying someone's home outright, so you have the cash, you have the capital, good for them, good for you, good for any of us that have that much money, and you could write someone a check for $500,000, right? $500,000, here you go, here's your $500,000, you're happy, you're on your way. You might not know what that house ever sold for, but nonetheless, this is a new model. This is a very, very small use of technology, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let people try to convince you or sell you that, look at this new high-tech real estate company that came into the market and they're killing the market and they're buying homes from people. Think about it. Anybody could do that. That's been going on for 1,000 years. Someone could always write you a check for a house. Someone could pay cash. Right? There's nothing new about this. The only thing new about it is they're doing it on a larger scale. They're creating a model that still has more fees than a traditional real estate. That's right. Open door, iBuyer program. Be careful of this. It has, on average, 8 to 10% fees and commissions that they charge, or fees. Let's just not call them commissions because they don't want to call them commissions. But here is the bottom line when you really lift up the hood and you look underneath and you really understand what's going on. These programs charge more than the traditional 6% to sell your house. They do, on average. They charge an average of 8 to 10%. So this is a myth I want to dispel here and talk a little bit about today. For the consumers, when you see this stuff online and on TV and they say, do away with all this stuff and it's magical and we're going to write you a check for your house. That may work for you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad program, but there's not a whole lot of use of technology in that concept and that model. So it's misleading. What they should say is, we got a great new way to buy and sell real estate in a transaction. And that is, we're going to buy your house outright. We have enough money to do it. And we're going to turn around and flip it and sell it. And we're going to use less real estate agents. We're going to change the model. That's what they should say. Now, they are using a little bit of technology behind the scenes. And here's where technology is being used in real estate and lending that helps the company more than it does the consumer. So where technology is being deployed and used and adapted is a lot behind the scenes in real estate and lending. What do I mean by that? So algorithms, artificial intelligence, that technology has gotten better. And I'll give you an idea. Like there's technology that exists now behind the scenes that might tell a company like Open Door or someone else that is trying a new model. They might say, hey, your best target audience is going to be Arizona and Nevada and these zip codes. That is a good use of technology for the company to have a better idea where they may laser target, maybe target an audience or do some marketing in a specific area where they think they have a better chance to buy someone's house outright because of the data that's gathered with artificial intelligence and a better use of technology. That is being deployed. That is being used better on the back end. But I would argue the majority of that does nothing for the consumer. What it does for the consumer in some cases is it allows you to sift and look at data quicker. So I'll give you an example where some technology is deployed now in real estate where it's helping. Is there are some companies that say, hey, are you trying to sell your house in San Jose, California in zip code, or are you trying to sell your house in Chicago in this zip code? And there's technology now behind the scenes that helps the consumer because when you enter that information, there's companies now that says, hey, here are the top 5 real estate agents based on the criteria of most homes sold, highest price points, all that. There's a good use of technology when it comes to that. So you as a consumer, when you go on to Zillow or some of these other sites and you type in a zip code in a city, some of the companies have done a good job at saying these are the top 5 real estate agents. Be careful, however. I'm going to put an asterisk next to this, and this is the reason why. Keep in mind, some of these search engines and these sites, and Zillow and some of these others, those are paid for placement. Some might say, what do you mean, Joe? They're paid for placement. So if you're a real estate agent or lender that's paying more money to be in a higher placement on a search, whether it's Zillow or Google, you're paying more money so your name comes up in the top 5 or the top 1 or 2. So understand that just because a person's name or company comes up in the top search doesn't mean that it's legitimately they are the best company in that category. Now, most of you are smart enough now, you'll see those Google searches or Zillow or something when it comes up. You'll see a little tiny notation that says ad next to it, AD. So what that means is that someone has paid money for that placement. So at least most consumers have an idea of that. So these are the types of things that are happening in technology as it relates to real estate. So some behind the scenes technology, artificial intelligence, data collection is really helping. That is true. That part is true. There's some really good developments on behind the scenes. What I want to dispel today, and what I want to just share with you the truth today, is there is very little, if not almost none, no technology that has dramatically changed the way you buy and sell and finance a home. Zero. Think about it. Traditionally, still, I want to say it's 90% plus people use a real estate agent or a lender to buy, sell, or finance a home. Okay, so when you have companies that are spouting out that their e-mortgage and their Fintech, I just saw an article today, and I think it's Better Mortgage. All right? So Better Mortgage is talking about digital mortgage. So just like the false advertising with Quicken Loans, they talk about the Rocket Mortgage. That's just a great marketing gimmick. Don't fool yourself. All that means is typically any mortgage lender or banker, you could type in some information and get an approval. That's existed for years. If it's a conforming loan, if you're W-2, if you don't have any quirks in your credit score, all these things, right? So if your deal is vanilla and it's a conforming loan, then you're going to get this really quick approval. But they're not the only ones that could do that. Most lenders could do that. So there's nothing magical about that. It's marketing. Okay, so this digital mortgage, we'll talk a little bit about that. This is relationship to financing. The first 70% of the article, they talk about how wonderful it is in digital mortgage, and they raised $150 million, and they're expanding and growing into different areas, and blah, blah, blah. So I don't mean to downplay it. That's a lot of people doing a lot of work with some innovation. Don't get me wrong. Behind the scenes, they're putting technology and tools in place to streamline the mortgage process. But guess what? To this day, guess what? 85% of people, and this is recent surveys, 85% of people on average still want to have some kind of conversation or connection with a person when doing a mortgage. So throw the hundreds of millions as whatever you want at this stuff. And this is coming from a person who's innovated. I love technology. I love the innovation. Believe me, I'm all for it. But I'm also a realist, and I get frustrated when I read some of these articles. I see the way these are positioned to make people think that there's some magical things happening behind the scenes, and they're using this magical technology to do a transaction. It's not happening. Are things moving a little quicker? Yes. Can people get a loan online without walking into a building? Yes. That's been going on for a while. Can people search for a real estate agent in the top 5% in a certain area? Yes. That's been going on for a while. Do you have to be careful that some of this is not marketing and you're really getting a person in the top 5? Yes. You have to be careful of who you could trust. Are there billions of dollars being pumped into real estate and lending to change the systems and the processes and how they do the transactions over the history of the course of real estate and lending over the last 100 years? Yes. So let me just make sure I'm clear. Billions and billions of dollars are going in to disrupt and change and improve the mortgage and real estate experience. The problem is a lot of these are experiments. Again, nothing wrong with that. See, my goal here today is share the truth about technology and real estate as it relates to it. The bottom line is this, ladies and gentlemen. The truth is there's very little technology that has changed the real estate experience other than changing a model. Now, that's the truth. And if anybody's gone through a real estate transaction in the last 60 days, 90 days, 2 years, and if you want to share with me, then I'll just share this is a phony example, but this is something I'd be looking for. If someone came up to me or called me and said, Joe, you're completely wrong. Let me tell you, I just sold my house and turned around and bought a house, and I had robots show up at my home. I did this all via satellite. I didn't talk to one human. It was voice activated. I transferred money through blockchain on both transactions. I never walked into a title company. I never left my house. Matter of fact, I never got out of my pajamas. and I did this whole transaction. That's what I'm waiting to hear, and I'm not going to hear it. And again, if those know me that follow my podcast, you know I'm a realist. You know I share this information, but you also know that even though I'm in an industry and I enjoy an industry, I'm not going to sugarcoat and BS around it. The reality is technology's coming everywhere, every industry. That part we know. But the reality also is that some industries are taking a lot longer to adjust and change, and then there's compliance and there's government and there's regulations behind the scenes a lot of people understand that are been governed. I mean, there's some states that you can't, as a consumer, you can't collect a referral fee or you can't get money back when you sell your home. When I say money back from a real estate agent. So there's a lot of laws in place that prohibit some of this stuff and that are making some challenges for real estate. So the truth is this. There's a lot of money being going into real estate. Very few of these companies, even though they'll tell you something different, most of that money is being pumped in behind the scenes to help the companies navigate, cut costs, increase margin, and streamline a process. It doesn't really improve the customer experience. And that's the point I want to get across today too, is that when you could adapt and deploy technology and systems and robots or AI or whatever it is, and if you could do these things, no matter what industry, right, you could say, Joe, look at, we've adapted AI, we've adapted robots, and this, just give me some examples. And because of these 4 things that we've done with technology, we've reduced our costs and overhead by 30%. And look at this. At the same time, we've increased the customer satisfaction rating from 4.5 to 6.8 over the last 2 years. Now, that's real data. But very few will be able to do that. Very few companies at this point will be able to honestly articulate to you, the consumer, that these are the things we've done with technology, and because of that we've improved customer care or the customer experience. It doesn't exist for the most part. Are you going to get stories where someone says, hey, I had a great experience when company A, B, and C bought my house outright? Sure you are. Absolutely. Some people are going to be extremely happy about that, just like some people are going to be extremely happy and give you a high rating if you use no technology. The bottom line right now, and I'm not saying that I agree with it, but what we have to do is, most of us, if we're smart, we listen to our customers, and we listen to what they say and not what we think. It's okay to think something. It's okay to develop something. That whole saying that goes back to that movie, if you build it, they will come, that's not always the truth. Jack and I did a story, and we talked a little bit about this. If you build it, we will come. See, a lot of people in technology, especially if they're in other industries and they have a team and they have unlimited amount of money, a lot of them think that if they build something, you will come, the consumers will come. In some cases, it's true, but not all. But not all. There's a history of this, and believe me, it's just not my opinion. So don't be fooled by someone that says, we've got new technology that's going to make it easier for you to sell or buy your house. When someone says that to you, just ask them specifically, can you share with me specifically what that is? Like what that technology is, why is it going to help me, and is it going to save me money, make me more money? What is it going to do? Let me close out with real estate, and then I'll touch back on mortgage just a little bit before we close out today. Here's the reality. There's several companies out that are talking about technology changing the face of real estate, eliminating this, eliminating that. The bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, the majority of real estate companies that still exist, that are still working, are charging the same commissions, a little bit less on average. Traditionally, the same models. Again, I'm not saying I agree with this. Here's what I agree with. Here's the model that we built in Bundle Select, and I'm just going to bring this up because it's, to me, it's the perfect model designed around what people are looking for. We designed a model that allows people, in this case, we market to companies and we offer Bundle Select as a product that's an employee benefit. So companies sign up with Bundle Select and the employees go online, right? So the employees go to a platform. They could bundle all their real estate services. So one, a use of technology, okay? It's not magical technology, but is a use of technology. So you could bundle your services. You could see how much you're saving. Then you could find out what the next steps are. So better use of technology, which means what? Guess what? So we could say with Bundle Select that, guess what? Because we do this online, because we partner with companies, we don't charge companies and employees. We're able to work with the industry and collect fees and make a revenue that way. But more importantly, we could say because we have this system and this model, you save 25% on your real estate transaction fees. See, we could say that because we've done it. Okay, again, it's not magical. It's a different shift. It's a way of thinking. It's a different methodology. Most in the industry see they all work independently and work against each other. This is what's funny. The concept of Bundle Select is, why don't we bring the interested parties together in the industry that really want to see change, and why don't we have them all work together for the better of the consumer or the employee and save them some money at the same time, because we're going to streamline this process and make some use of technology, and we should be able to pass that on to the consumer. It's that simple. So most of what you hear, I hate to say this, it's for marketing, it's for window dressing, it's to make things sound better. Are there a lot of things going on behind the scenes? Is there a lot of money? Yes. Has there been a magical, evolutional, major change in technology when it comes to real estate and mortgage? No, just hasn't. Doesn't mean it won't down the road, and we'll keep you posted on that. Okay, so as we leave real estate, be very clear. Most people still want to use a agent, qualified. Here's the difference. Most people do want to save money. We all know. So be prepared for that. So use someone that is still going to give you a high level of service, and use someone that's, in this case, most people want some kind of a discount or savings, and you have to prove to them that's what you're doing. And so that's there. Nothing currently exists in the marketplace today that someone could say, because of these 3 or 4 things we've done, we've completely eliminated any part of that transaction. We've changed the way you're not only going to save 50%, but you'll never see a person or talk to a person. It just doesn't exist. All right, let's do a little bit on mortgage before we wrap things up today. So mortgage is a lot of the same as I just described with real estate. Most of you know, you could pick up the phone, you could go online. You don't even have to talk to a person. You could fill out some information. They could pull your credit. You could do any of us could do a mortgage, seriously, without talking to a person. Now, what I just shared with you is the reality is 85+% of people don't want that. Okay, and remember those 15% that do this, that do want that, remember, they're a unique group. And what I mean by unique is they have very simple financing requirements. So they're probably someone that has a loan amount of $200,000, $300,000. They have a W-2 job. It's real simple. Their credit's good. Real simple. Those are vanilla. If you've been in this industry, you could do those with your eyes closed. Seriously. So that's nothing magical. So today that exists. You could either go online, get on the phone. You don't need to walk into a building to get a loan. You don't. But the majority of people still want interaction. They still want to be able to pick up the phone, look at someone across the desk and say, I don't understand the first-time homebuyer program. Can you explain it to me? I don't understand how this program works, this teacher program works, or this firefighters program. I don't understand why you have to review my bank statements this way. I don't understand why you can't calculate my income this way. There's these questions that people want to talk to someone about and get real answers. Lending is complicated. It can be very complicated, even in the simplest transactions. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is. That's something you could take up with the government agencies because they're the ones that created this stuff. So, the truth about technology and mortgage is that there's the same thing. There's very little. Now, I can say that mortgage financing, the financing industry, mortgage industry has done a better job at adapting technology sooner and more often, and they're making a better use of technology than real estate has. And I'll give you some examples where it has improved the customer experience. Now, most major companies and banks, this is available. It's not a big deal, but it should happen. When you get approved, you automatically get an email or a text, right? When your file goes to underwriting, you automatically get up. So there's milestones and updates that if a company's making a good use of technology, you're getting these updates automatically via email. No one has to stop and pick up the phone and go, gee, I wonder where my loan is. If you're working with the right lender, you should get those updates automatically, whether it's a purchase or a refinance, and they exist. So that's a better use of technology. And that is a better use of technology to improve the communication process. The biggest number one complaint about real estate agents is lack of communication. Some people might say fees, costs, whatever, lack of knowledge, but the number one complaint, and this has been going on for years, it hasn't changed much, still by far the number one complaint is lack of communication. So you see what I'm saying? All these people that say we're deploying technology and all this money to improve the process, they still can't get the damn communication right. How are you going to do a transaction if you can't communicate with your customer? And I don't mean to make fun of this, but the reality is it's funny to me when I hear these people talk about these interviews and these videos and this about how they're changing the world, which is great. I love that idea. Believe me, I'm a big idea person. I love it. But don't say it unless it's true. You might say it's going to take us a few years to change the world, or our vision is to change the world, but we have to go through phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 before we get there. The reality is this. Similar to real estate, there's very little technology that has completely changed the way a mortgage is started and funded. Now, soon, blockchain, which is going to take a while, blockchain technology will, I believe, I'm a believer that this will play a part in real estate and lending somewhere down the road. Unfortunately, it's going to take a few years, if not more, because regulation, compliance, a lot of stuff that's really the nature of security and personal privacy, a lot of stuff's involved with that. But that's coming. So right now, again, when someone says magic mortgage, rocket mortgage, digital mortgage, those are all great marketing things. But when you come right down to the reality and you go through that process, whether it's mortgage company 1 that says we're a digital mortgage, or mortgage company 2 that says we're a rocket mortgage, or mortgage company 3 that says we do a great job, all three probably do a good job somewhere. But there's nothing magically different that's happening there. Some of the difference will be like you'll be able to upload your documents without scanning them and faxing them. Okay, well, that exists. That's nothing magical, ladies and gentlemen. So some people will say, hey, it's great. You could go online. You could upload all your documents. Well, that exists. That is a better use of technology, but I'm saying that that's nothing new. Okay. Now, what machine learning and artificial intelligence, as they start getting better and they could read documents without a human being having to articulate or decipher documents, now that is a good use of technology. Unfortunately, that's going to be a while before they could do that with tax returns. You could probably do a pretty good job at scanning and reading like W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements, kind of documents that are set that way. But what's really hard is it's going to take a while for AI or a certain amount of technology to decipher what a huge tax return looks like when a person has self-employed partnerships, 16 businesses, on and on and on. That's going to be a tough one. So the message is this as I sign off today, and that is this is a great industry. Home ownership is one of the most wonderful things a person could experience. I encourage everybody, if they haven't done so, to really think about it, because it's a great way to build, something to the future. It's a great thing to live in. There's a lot of good things about home ownership. So I'm a big fan of this industry. That's why we're trying to be part of changing it too, realistically, and in a way that we're passing this information on in a truthful manner to the consumers. But be careful who you work with. Be careful what you listen to. Be careful what you're being sold on. And dig deep. As always, if you have questions, check in with me. I'm happy to help. whether you're working with us or not. That's not the goal. The goal is to help you make wise decisions. So even if you're working with someone else or you haven't made a decision, call us. We give you advice all the time, and we want to be able to do that. That's RERadiolive.com. You could email Joe at RERadiolive.com, or you could always text or call 408-838-9060. All right, thanks again for tuning in. Thank you then for those that are watching the show on Facebook. We appreciate that very much. If you haven't done so, download the podcast, pass it on to family, friends, and coworkers. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in today. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.